Hey ladies and gents, welcome back. This is going to be part 2 to What If Naruto Was the Reincarnation of Sukuna. So if you do like what you see here and you like these what ifs, please don't forget that you can subscribe to the channel. It's free, it's easy, and you can always unsubscribe. So with that being said, let's just jump right back into the what if. So in the last part, we left off with Naruto, or Sukuna in this what if, actually taking over the Leaf Village. He killed Danzo, the village elders, and Hiruzen. However, a couple weeks later, word has spread that the Leaf Village has had some kind of coup, or something of that sort, and there's a new leader of the village. So Itachi, hearing this, decided that he needed to go see what's happening, see if his brother is safe, and see if he needs to save the Leaf Village, because that's kind of like, he still cares about the Leaf Village. He's literally an undercover agent for Hiruzen, so he's gonna do that now. So he shows up in the village. He walks straight in, and nobody has any amount of power in order to stop him. However, Sukuna would soon appear in front of him, or, show up in front of him. So now, with Itachi confronting Sukuna, they have a nice and polite conversation to start with. Sukuna's asking exactly, who the fuck are you? Why are you here? And am I going to have to kill you? So Itachi answers short, well, I guess that depends on you. Sukuna gives him a kind of confused stare, and he's just like, sarcastic one, I see. I don't recommend being arrogant around me. He points his finger towards Itachi and allows a small amount of cursed energy to go around his finger. Because of the fact that this is cursed energy and not chakra, Itachi cannot see it with his Sharingan, and then Sukuna does something that Itachi was not exactly expecting. So Sukuna has just used a ability. This ability, as not necessarily everybody knows, is actually an ability that actually kind of controls fire. You may be wondering, wait, he can control fire? He actually can. So exactly what Sukuna can do is basically an unnamed fire ability. We don't really know exactly what it is, what it's called, or what exactly it is capable of, but we know he can create and manipulate flames for long-range attacks. And these actually exceeded the abilities of Joga, which is that unregistered special grade curse, who was really freaking powerful with his pyrokinetic powers. So, because of the fact that Sukunas are even stronger than that, this would be absolutely massively stronger than a fireball jutsu coming from Itachi. So a massive fireball begins heading towards Itachi, and Itachi thinks this is just chakra. Confused as to why he couldn't see it, he decides to make a fireball jutsu of his own. However, something very surprising actually happens. Because of the fact that Sukuna can manipulate the flames from even, long-range attacks and everything like that, the flames do something that Itachi was not expecting. A small portion of the flames actually stop, Itachi's flames. So that because, they're so much more powerful than Itachi's, it only takes a small fraction of them to stop him. However, all of the others go around the other flame. They kind of go into the form of a phoenix. They go around Itachi's flame, and then they go back down towards Itachi, going down at him like a dragon. So at this point, Itachi's like, shit, as he makes a, Susanoo around himself. He doesn't really want to risk it. He knows that Sukuna is absurdly powerful. However, something that Itachi was not expecting was that the rib Keiju Susanoo, which Itachi just put up, was not actually enough to stop Sukuna at this point. These went straight through, and Itachi had to take a decent amount of damage from these flames. It broke straight through his Susanoo. So Itachi is massively surprised by this. He was not expecting Sukuna's flames to be so powerful, and he knows that he's going to have to use Amaterasu to counter them. So he does this exact thing. Sukuna, again, this is a small amount of cursed energy, too. He could make massively more powerful attacks in this, along with massively bigger attacks in this. He's just putting a tiny bit of his actual cursed energy into these attacks. So this cursed attack goes towards Itachi again. Itachi uses Amaterasu as a counter to this, and it does actually work. They counter each other pretty perfectly, and they kind of just negate each other. Sukuna is actually surprised. He hasn't been able to meet anybody that could even get close to meeting his pyrokinetic powers, and this random, member, or he doesn't really know exactly who it is actually able to match him. He's impressed. He knows he's even stronger than Hiruzen. Now he's a little bit excited. maybe he'll actually be able to fight somebody kinda strong at this point. He charges forward, now not really caring about using his pyrokinetic powers at this point because he knows Itachi has a counter to them. And so, charging forward, he puts more cursed energy into his finger and slices, cleave. So, this goes straight through Itachi, cutting off one of his arms. Itachi screams in pain as blood comes gushing out of his arm. So, Itachi knows what he has to do. Putting up his Susanoo and activating the Yada Mirror, he tries to block Sukuna's next attack, as Sukuna once again uses Cleave. This time, seeing the Susanoo appear in front of him again, he decides to put even more cursed energy into it. He uses quite a bit of cursed energy in this attack, as Cleave goes and tries to cut down Itachi's Susanoo. So, something that's interesting about the Yada Mirror is that it is comprised of chakra, obviously. Because of the fact that what Sukuna is using is actually completely different from that, is, cursed energy, it would actually be a completely different thing. Now, how the actual thing, or Yada Mirror, works is it has all of the different natures of energy, and it uses those different natures in combinations, or one at a time, in order to block certain jutsu. That is how it actually blocks things. That sounds similar to, the truth-seeking orbs or something like that. However, what is actually interesting about this, that I'm actually trying to bring up here, is that Sukuna isn't using chakra. He's using cursed energy, which is a completely different thing, something that the Yada Mirror does not have a counter to, as Sukuna's cursed energy, Cleave, goes straight through it, cutting Itachi clean in half. Itachi, massively surprised by this, ends up having to use Izanagi, just like how Danzo did it against, Sukuna in the first part. This is completely surprising. Sukuna's like, it seems as though they have some kind of power in their eye in order to be able to do that. It seems that it makes them go blind in that eye and completely unable to use it. However, that is powerful. I might have to keep that in mind for the future. Sukuna knows that, he's going to be able to use this again, so once again he uses Cleave, slashing through Itachi once again. Itachi obviously has to use his power once again, and he does so. However, something quite odd happens. When Sukuna tries to go for this attack one more time, Itachi's just gone. Instead, there's a man standing in front of him wearing a mask. That's enough. Madara Uchiha demands you stop this before he leaves. Now, obviously, this was Obito. He sucked up Itachi into the Kamui dimension as he knew that Itachi would be an asset against the Leaf Village, and he decided, or not the Leaf Village, sorry, but, he was a valuable asset to the Akatsuki, especially this early on when they had literally no Jinchuriki, and he knew that he can't really risk Itachi dying, at least not yet. So, with that actually happening, he decided to save Itachi. So, Obito is now kind of worried about Sukuna. He's very powerful, and he doesn't really know how he's going to plan on dealing with them, at least not yet. He decides to let it, he'll let it go on for a few years. How much stronger could he possibly get? Oh boy, did he make a mistake there. So, with this actually happening, Sukuna decides, whatever, it's time. I'm gonna go take over the other villages. So, using his basically army of the Leaf Village he has at this point, he decides it's time. He's gonna go take over the rest of the world. As they spread out, they go around all of the different villages. Not necessarily only ninja villages. Every single village ever in the entire world gets conquered by the Leaf Village. So with this actually happening, the entire world would pretty quickly get taken over by the Leaf Village, as the map quickly surrounds every single ninja village, leaving only the 5 major ninja villages left. So with this actually happening, that's the thing. Think about the fact that this would provide him with a massive strategical advantage, because he can go anywhere in the world and completely surround all of the ninja villages if he wanted to. But, let's be honest, he doesn't even need to do that. He can easily go take on any of the Kage if he wanted to. However, something that Sukuna was not expecting because of the years of battling and wars and everything like that, was that the nations actually end up allying together against him, or the Leaf Village as a whole. With this actually happening, they begin to push back in areas where Sukuna isn't, and he isn't able to be multiple places at once. Well, not yet at least. So he ends up going back to the Leaf Village. He needs to find something powerful, something that could help him in this war, because he wasn't expecting all of the rest of the nations to ally against him. So, going back, he finds something that the village was trying to hide from him, or that Hiruzen was trying to hide from him before he died. This actually being the Scroll of Sealing, which contains all of the jutsu, or forbidden jutsu, created by Tobirama. This includes the Shadow Clone Jutsu, the not the Ren Rebirth, the Edo Tensei, which, let's be honest, Sukuna would be able to master the point where Kabuto could, if he needed to. Let's be honest, he doesn't really need to since he has Shadow Clones. And one other jutsu that we actually know of. This being the Flying Raijin. With this actually happening, Sukuna, being the absolute massive prodigy that he is, mastered these jutsu within weeks. First learning the Shadow Clone Jutsu, and then he quickly learns, because of his massive intelligence, that with his massive reserves of chakra, he can have hundreds, if not thousands of Shadow Clones at once, and he does recall the experience that they had. So he instantly learned something that Naruto didn't learn till Shippuden, this being that he can train using Shadow Clones to get stronger faster. He does this for a few weeks, until he completely masters the Shadow Clone Jutsu, the Edo Tensei, and the Flying Raijin. Now going back to the battlefield. He makes hundreds, thousands of clones at this point, all going to different battlefields around the entire world. This would be enough. As this counterattack began, many of the villages would fall. The Sand would fall first. Gaara at this point is like 8 years old, and he would not be anywhere near powerful enough to stop any of this. And as we were shown, which was actually contradicted in the war, was that Gaara was actually stronger than the Kazekage at such a young age. He was the secret weapon of the Sand Village, which means he was stronger than the Kazekage, which for some reason actually matched him in the war. I'm not exactly sure why. Probably because he didn't have Shukaku anymore. But this ends up meaning that the Sand Village would fall rather quickly. So the Sand is the first village to fall. They quickly drop out of the allies, and not most, but some of the Sand actual villagers and ninja would actually just go to Sukuna. They'd be like, yeah, you're the new World Kage at this point. Yeah, I said World Kage because, he's not the Raikage, he's not the Hokage, he's not anything like that, because he's the ruler of the world at this point, or so they think, or so he's going to be at the very least. So, the next village he actually conquers would actually end up being the Mist Village. You might be wondering why they're at this point. I'm not sure. I don't know if they're actually still referred to as the Blood Mist Village, but they are actually one of the weaker nations at this point. They were, they had the Three Tails, which actually is not sealed inside of anybody right now because it was kind of killed off with Rin. Its chakra was still forming somewhere and it hadn't appeared in the Naruto world yet, meaning it wasn't there. Yagura, at this point, was also under complete control from Obito, and Obito didn't really want anything to do with, Sukuna at this point, especially not with, one of the Jinchuriki. He didn't want him to die. So he immediately got Yagura out of there, taking him back and placing him somewhere safe where they could seal him in the right order. So, with him actually doing this, he decides that, Yagura's gone, Three Tails isn't there. What exactly do you think is going to happen at this point? It's not going to end well. So, with this actually happening, the Mist Village is taken out rather easily as well. So, what is the next village that is going to be taken down? Well, before he decides to go on to the next village with his main body, something interesting happens. Some memories pop up from his shadow clones, which you might be wondering. That means that his shadow clones were destroyed by something, as these memories flood back into his head. There's a man with a lightning cloak around his body, with another using these massive arms and legs that came out of his body, and something that looks like tentacles, almost like an octopus. However, we are going to be getting into that in the next part of this What If. See you guys later. Bye-bye.